Good evening. Howdy, folks. Oh, wait. I'm not in Texas anymore. Never was. Oh, thank you. I can say your attention. What? Say what? What? I can't hear you. My mic's... Thank you. Jeez! Everybody's a star. I should have used the handle. I'm Tom Snyder. I'm the guy who drew the short straw, and who's going to be the MC tonight. It was either a guy who plays with dolls, or a guy who plays with who wears a wiener on his head. And I lost. So here I am. Although you're going to see a little bit of Steve later. It was a choice between the two goofiest guys in the class. Nobody knew that, right? So here we are, finally. That penultimate gathering of this weekend of our little group of well-seasoned golden Juniata alums, celebrating the 50th anniversary of our having passed comps. Isn't that the only reason we're here? I mean, geez, I still can't figure out how I did it. I still have dreams about it. So it's either that or another golden that's involved in my thinking, or was, but I was a little bit confused because this year, I don't know if you noticed the film that won the Golden Raspberry or the Golden Razzie for the worst film of the year. I thought it was about our folks, our generation. It was 50 Shades of Grey. Right? Wouldn't that be for most of us? There's a lot of white out there, actually. Steve, Tom, okay, so. But we have our 50 Shades of Grey as well. And so that's not the case, I guess. It wasn't about that. So what we want to do this evening is to sit back and relax and enjoy each other and share even more stories and reminiscences, I hope, and food. Oh gosh, that's what we need, more food, right? But it's been great, I think, anyway. But first of all, before we start, let me introduce you to one of our classmates, Reverend Peter Grandy, retired Senior Associate Minister of Asylum Hill Congregational Christian Church in Hartford, Connecticut. By the way, Mark Twain's church. A little bit of name dropping. I did it for Peter. Okay. Peter is going to offer a blessing, and maybe too, he could ask for forgiveness for some of my material tonight. Okay. Peter.
I don't know about you, but Tom always makes me smile. So another good evening to the class of 66 and all the spouses who came with us, and we really appreciate you coming with us, and all of our special guests for this evening. And why don't we just be in the spirit of Thanksgiving. Gracious God, this evening we offer our thanksgiving for Juniata College dear, and for all our years within its embrace, for fond memories, and professors, administrators, coaches, and classmates who challenged us to think, to evolve, and to act. This evening especially, we thank you for the gift of renewed friendships that have encircled and enriched us during this 50th anniversary reunion, and for those who planned this wonderful event. Bless this food and all who labored that we might share it together, and nourished by it, may we be a blessing to others. With grateful hearts we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Peter. You didn't ask for forgiveness from me, but that's okay. So folks, we're going to enjoy our food at this moment, but before we do, a little housekeeping. You probably saw, and I don't know if any introduced you to, the photo booth over there. If you were wondering what that was, maybe? No. It's a place where you can go and do some goofy things. Take some pictures with friends, classmates, your spouse. Wear a goofy hat, wear a Juniata something. Do whatever you want. But it's a fun thing to do, and some more photographs that you can take along with you. The other thing, which is really cool, I think we're the first class to have done this, came out of some of our thinking and planning. We actually did think about some things. And that is the screen with the Juniata logos and things on the back of it, and a movie camera. There'll be a gentleman there all night long. And what we thought would be a fun thing to do, I know I'm going to do it to a few people, and that is to send, moving messages, moving messages perhaps, okay, to classmates who aren't here and who you might want to remember. So go up there and stand or sit and record something, because it's going to be part of our entire evening, which is being recorded as well, so be careful. So I think it'd be a great idea, because there are a bunch of people who I was hoping would be here and could be here, and some who had planned to be here and couldn't be here. And I want to send some messages to those people, and I'm sure you will have some as well. So make use of that. I think it'll be fun, because it'll all be then put together professionally, and it'll be on YouTube. So you might want to be careful what you say. Okay. So nobody knows YouTube, right? Okay. But we'll explain it all to you. So, but do that. Use that. Enjoy it. But more than anything else, enjoy your food, and then we'll get into the program a little later. Eat, drink, and be merry. Or I'm going to go eat and drink with Mary. See you. Alrighty then, if we can find our ways back to our table, I'd like to start the program. My bedtime is like 9 o'clock, so if you can wander back to your tables or finish the conversations, think about what you're going to say in your video telegram to friends, and then do it later. We'll get started with our program. Thinking maybe we'll have a contest, see whose picture for the photo booth, is the goofiest. I think Pat Bruno wins already. Oh, and you didn't even put anything on. Oh, that's it. Very good. All right. Oh, wow. Oh, that's just... Okay. Talk about gate crashers. I mean, anyway, another welcome, really. Let's get started. As I mentioned, here we are now at the second to last event, or maybe for some of us the last event of our weekend, and we hope you're still enjoying it, and we'll continue for the rest of this evening. What I'd like to do now is introduce our special guests of the evening, who are mentioned in the program, but give you a little background, and we'll have some other people also introducing. But Betty Ann Cherry is with us tonight. Wonderful Betty Ann Cherry. Most of what I am about to read or relate to you, I think you know, but we need to, I think, talk about it again, or be reminded. But Professor Cherry's personal history is in fact so intricately entwined with the history of Juniata College. She, of course, is the daughter of Calvert N. Ellis, our president. The president when we were here. We kind of think he's our president. who served the college from 1943 to 1968. So 43, some of us were born in 43, and some of us took till 68, even though we're part of 66, right? No, some took a little longer anyway. So he was there the whole time. And of course, Elizabeth Works Ellis, her mother, who many people also remember and know well and fondly. She was married to the late Ronald Cherry, professor of economics and business administration, with whom she, I understand only from reading our booklet, hosted something called the Gentlemen's Club. Yeah. Wait a minute. You're proud of that? I mean, euphemistically, the Gentlemen's Club. The posters, you know, the billboards you see around the country and things, Gentlemen's Club. Or what? Oh, yeah, well, that's it. See, Jimmy, you know that. Okay. But anyway, the Gentlemen's Club, whatever it was, maybe somebody will explain a little later. I know I was never a member, so, or invited, or qualified, right? And there's a good reason. But of course, we all know her as a significant contributor to that epic interdisciplinary course, Great Epochs of World Cultures. And I just learned that, in fact, we were the first class that she taught. And we were guinea pigs. And this is what happened to us. Now, they got it all straightened out a few years later, and all those other classes did well. But we were willing to do that. But, you know, interesting enough also, Betty Ann recently joined what I consider to be an august group of people known as commencement speakers. Sort of like wedding planners, you know, commencement speakers, they then become professional commencement speakers. And there's no truth, if you saw the video of her commencement speech to the Juniata class of 2016, it is very special. I'm a little disappointed that as a history professor, she didn't wrap it, given Hamilton's, you know, popularity these days. That some commencement speakers are wrapping, you know, their speeches, but you didn't do that. However, someone noticed that you were talking to President Proha before you made your announcement, and the question that apparently is on the mind of almost every commencement speaker is, how do I tell the graduates that the future of the world rests in their hands without alarming the rest of the audience? Right? Well, you have to be thinking about that, don't you? I would be. But anyway, Betty Ann Cherry, thank you for joining us tonight. You'll hear a little bit more from Betty Ann Cherry in a few moments, a little bit later. Another special guest, couple actually, are Earl and Harriet Kaylor. Thank you for joining us. Again, many people know things about the Kaylors, but let me remind you and reiterate. Earl Kaylor at various times has served as chairman of the Religion and History departments of Juniata, the Humanities Division, and the director of summer sessions. He was also baseball coach and athletic director, a two-sport letterman as an undergraduate, and a former marathon runner. He was an inspiration to me when I'd see him running around town when I was back in college. And I asked him also, when I quit smoking, started running marathons as well. Thank you for that. Just seeing you running up and down Warm Springs was inspirational. And of course, he's authored those two definitive books of Juniata history. The most recent, Juniata, Uncommon Vision and Uncommon Loyalties. Is that the title? Did I get it correct? Hopefully. Okay, I didn't get an answer, but I think it is. So, the other Dr. Kaylor, Mrs. Kaylor, Harriet Kaylor, joins us, and she has been an educator as well, a lifelong teacher here in Huntington County, and again, a holder of a doctorate degree. The Kaylors, interesting enough, will be celebrating their 65th wedding anniversary this coming June 30th. Happy anniversary ahead of time. And thank you for joining us. Again, you will also hear from the Kaylors a little bit later. And now, what I'd like to do is have one of our classmates introduce another of the distinguished guests, and that would be Carol Keffer Graff, Miss Geology.
Oh, it's coming out in here. I want to introduce one of the most important people in my life, really. I came to Juniata, I think I had 5 majors before I took physical geology. And I found what I loved. And I'm still doing it. And it's all because of Peter Trexler.
Oh, good. I don't know if any of you realized that today I was introducing the recipient of the Alumni Achievement Award, Maurice Taylor. And I did a John Boehner in the middle of the introduction, which was very embarrassing, but it was true. So that happens to everybody. Dr. Trexler, I think you wanted to say something to the gathering.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. I want to say thank you. I think it's a great honor that you invited me to this dinner. Can you hear me? All right. I'm not used to speaking with a mic. My voice usually was big enough that I could reach the end of the room. But I have another thank you to make. I came to Juniata with you people in the fall of '62. And there was a little difference. I was 17 years older than you, so now you can figure out my age. But anyway, I came to Juniata thinking that it might be a place that I could make my home and make my career. I spent those 17 years before coming here in the Navy, getting my degree through the GI Bill, and then working for the U.S. Geological Survey for a number of years. But I was doing my doctoral work at Michigan, and I thought that I might like to go into teaching, and I saw a handwritten ad on the bulletin board describing Juniata College. Now, though I was a native of Pennsylvania, I knew practically nothing of Juniata, but I said, Juniata College, and the secretary in the department said, oh, Juniata, my brother teaches there. And it was Dr. Dewey Hoitenga. so anyway, I found out more about Juniata and decided to apply. And maybe they had no other applications, but anyway, they took me. And my wife, Virginia, and I came to town. We liked the town, we liked the area, lots of rural area, and we both wanted to live in the country. There was great geology here, and I had worked for the U.S. Geological Survey in Pennsylvania, so I knew something about the geology. And the college was the type of college I wanted to teach in. Not a big impersonal university, but a small, personal, friendly, small liberal arts college. I came here, started the department and taught courses, but Virginia and I said when we came, well, we'll try it out and see what it's like, and if we don't like it, we'll leave after 2 years. However, I found the student body, you people, very receptive, very friendly, and eager to learn. And you were just good people. You did much to influence me, because after 2 years, Virginia and I said, we like it, and much of it was due to you. And so I thank you. I had a wonderful 27-year career here. It was very rewarding, and much of it was due to you people. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, there's another one who started with us. See that? We are a lot of things in common with a lot of people. Okay, to introduce our next guest of the evening, we're going to, let me reintroduce you to our fearless leader, Joan Van Note, who is, she will talk to you about a particular individual and groups of individuals who she would like to thank. Joan.
Evelyn Pembroke is my special person that I invited this evening, and Evelyn is sitting over there. She was born and raised in Turtle Creek Valley, Monroeville, Pennsylvania area. Evelyn is an alumni of Gateway High School in Monroeville. Prior to accepting a position at Juniata, she was employed as an administrative assistant for Help America and HMO in Pittsburgh. Evelyn began her career at Juniata in 1988 in the development office as the annual fund secretary. So I started with working with Evelyn as soon as she came. Then she moved to the position of alumni office secretary in 1090, and then promoted to the alumni relations specialist in 2003. She now works in the development team as the advancement and stewardship assistant for the remainder of her phased retirement. June 30th is her last day. She will be retired. Evelyn and her husband Ray have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandsons. She enjoys walking, reading, spending time with family and good friends. And I want to introduce you to Evelyn Pembroke. Now, if you could just pick up your programs on the back cover, back page. Our 50th reunion committee are making these people aware that we know that we could not have continued to have a successful reunion without the help of all these people in all these different departments. So Juniata College staff appreciation. Is the service, the food service people, they're
Well, we can just give it a name.
yes, the food service people also. Then inside your bulletin for this evening, we have a list of all the people that made the Juniata Village make our committee one that was extraordinary and was able to pull off a great weekend. I have to have a special thank you to Darlene because she was behind the scenes helping me, and she's also the one that gave everybody a pin. So the pin came from Darlene. Would Christina please come up, Christina Miller? In appreciation for all the work that you've done to help us, we have this memento for you. It's a vase engraved from the class of 1966. We appreciate everything you have done for us.
Okay. Now, oh, I forgot one thing. No, I'll do that later. Nah, we'll do that. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's looking for the program. As I mentioned in the beginning, there was a drawing of straws, who's going to, MC and who's going to do what. Fortunately, Steve, I got the short straw, so I had to do this, but Steve got to do the fun part, and that is to put everything together. To write, direct, and produce most of what we're doing this evening. So let me introduce her and reintroduce you to another fearless leader of ours, Mr. Stephen Engle. Mr. Steve? Oh, he most probably has a friend with him, who knows? Oh gosh, here we go again.
Thank you all very much. Good evening. Some of you that have been to reunions before have met this young lady, and her name is Hildy Higginbottom, and she's the better half of Cyrus and Hildy Higginbottom. And yes, indeed, there really is a Cyrus, isn't there?
Why, yes, but he couldn't come this evening.
Cyrus couldn't come?
No, he's not feeling well.
I'm sorry, what happened?
Well, you see, last evening he couldn't see what he was doing.
Oh?
And he rinsed out his undershorts in turpentine. Kind of gives a snappy new meaning to Fruit of the Loom, doesn't it? Sorry, I got a little carried away there.
Well, that's all right. Cyrus, we hope he's feeling better soon.
Thank you, dear. Who's that nice young man who was talking?
Him?
Yeah,
That's Tom. That's Tom Snyder.
really?
Uh-huh.
I didn't recognize him without the hot dog hat. You know, you could use a hat.
Thank you very much.
Have you ever thought about getting a wig?
Yeah, I've thought about it, but no, I'm not going to get a wig.
Well, I wouldn't either if I were you.
Oh, you wouldn't?
No.
Why not?
Why put a new top on a convertible when the engine's already shot?
Okay, I think that's about enough about me.
Oh, Tommy,
Yes.
wasn't he a potato chip?
No, he wasn't a potato chip.
He wasn't?
No, you see, his dad had a potato chip company, and his real name is Thomas, or his full name is Thomas Dale Snyder. So they named the potato chips Tommy Dale.
Oh, so he went from being a potato chip to a hot dog.
Well, there were a few other things in between, but I guess that's true.
Well, I guess it shows the chip doesn't fall far from the picnic table, does it? You know, I can tell that you've retired us.
Well, that's true, I have, but how can you tell that?
Well, my voice is a little hoarse,
Uh-huh.
and when I talk, your mouth moves.
Okay, you're here for an important reason tonight.
Yeah,
Can you get to it?
I certainly can. I'm here to talk about a close friend of mine.
Close friend.
Yes, we grew up together in Woodbury, New Jersey.
Really?
Yeah. Anybody know who we're talking about?
Well, I think we're talking about Joan.
That's right, we grew up together.
You two grew up together?
Uh-huh. We walked to school together, too.
Really?
6 miles.
Uh-huh.
Uphill, both ways. That Joan graduated magna cum corns. Betty Ann didn't like that one.
Well, she doesn't have to like that. Anyway, so I didn't realize that you two were that good of friends.
Oh, yes, it's...
You're sure it's all true?
Yes, it is. Look at my nose. Has it started to grow yet?
No, but I think it's going to start any minute.
You know, Joan is a bit of a fanatic for the Phillies.
Yes, she is.
And I think she's a bit of a fanatic for Juniata, too.
That is true, too.
Glass gun agent for 50 years, would you believe it?
That really is amazing, isn't it?
I think the only thing I've done for 50 years is eat and sleep. But I do have to tell you, did you know that when Joan was a little girl, she was very quiet?
This Joan,
Yeah.
as a little girl, was very quiet.
Uh-huh. Then she was accidentally vaccinated with a phonograph needle, and the rest is the normal history. Wasn't too long ago, you know, she decided we were going to get new swimsuits for the summer.
She decided we were,
You know when Joan gets an idea.
say no more, okay.
So we went out. Well, first I asked my husband if he thought I should get a one-piece or a two-piece.
Okay, what did he say?
He said I ought to get a two-piece.
Really?
Yes.
Why did he say that?
Well, he said I can't get it all into one piece. So we were out there trying on suits.
Uh-huh.
Joan looked at me, took one look at me, a nice suit, and she said, Hildy, you can't be fit as a fiddle when you're built like a cello. I'm signing us up for a senior aerobics class.
You two are the senior aerobics class.
Uh-huh. So we went to the first class. Man, we were huffing and puffing and wiggling and bending over. And by the time we got our leotards on, the class was over.
Well, I think this tall tale is over too, so I think we better turn it back to Tom. Can you say goodbye, Hildy?
Goodbye, Hildy.
Oh.
Well, that's what you said to say.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Hildy. At this moment, we'd like to recognize Joan, our fearless leader. Joan, I know you think you're here for another reason, but that chair, by the way, I think is just totally uncomfortable for you. And we have something a little more special. We know that this is something you've kind of been wanting. And so we have put together a chair. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, I forgot that I put the wrong glasses on tonight. So Joan, please join us. Okay, and accept this chair, the Juniata chair. Will hopefully make you comfortable for your day in New Jersey. Where are we going? Yes, Joan, we've been talking about and hearing from other classes and about other classes and their fund agents and so forth. And you many times have a fund agent that started out after they first graduated, and then somebody else took over, and then somebody else took over, and other people helped. We've had one, and I think we're one of the few classes, I don't know who's here, but that have had one person, carrying on through all this time. As has Joan. And I think you're special for that reason, Joan, and we thank you very much. And I know you have some comments that you'd like to make about us, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe, okay.
Not you.
No, I know. Oh, please, there's enough of that.
Well, thank you so much for this chair. I'm going to enjoy it. Thank you so much. Where have all the years gone? I feel that it was just a couple years ago that we were walking the pathways of Juniata. So much has changed on the campus, but our memory books will give us an indication of some of these things. One constant in my life since graduation in 1966 has been my association with my alma mater. I enjoy the various fall and spring seasons when I revisit the campus. I have stayed connected to my class through being a class foundation and a reunion coordinator. Juniata really is my second home. I said this to somebody today and they said, not your first. This is not our last reunion. We will still be coming back and we'll be emeriti and we can enjoy next year and won't have to plan anything. Just thank you everyone in our class who has worked with me over the years. The last few years, the 50th Reunion Committee has worked very hard. It takes a Juniata village to make this a success, and you have proved it. So you need to give yourself As fund agent, I've had the support of our classmates in helping with the scholarship fund. These scholarships are for students who are now attending Juniata. Remember when we needed that extra amount of money to attend Juniata? And I think that's why so many of you have been supportive with 50%. The last 15 years, we've had at least 50% of our class give to scholarships, because we remember what it was like. Of course, it was a lot less money, but we were privileged to have an excellent education in Juniata College because of this. Our legacy team, as part of our reunion committee, has recently made a lot of phone calls to ask classmates to contribute to our class gift and other legacy gifts. This reunion was a success through the efforts of everyone on our committee. Each and every one of you shared your talents and your time to make this a great reunion. I can't thank you enough. 3 cheers to Juniata. Thank you once again for the chair.
While we were here, those years, in the 60s, a lot of things were happening. A lot of things happened in the country, and a number of things happened in our community, all of which gave Juniata a lot of attention. So what we'd like to do now is just give you a flashback look. We call it From Selma to Shade Gap, and we'd like to have the Kaylors read some excerpts from Earl's book about those very events.
"50 years ago, I got invited to be the baccalaureate speaker at Southern Huntington County High School. A month or so after I accepted, I was shocked to hear the district was in the midst of the largest manhunt in U.S. history up to that time. A member of the 1966 high school class had been kidnapped in broad daylight. For more than a week, her ordeal made national headlines. Thank goodness she was rescued in time to graduate. And could I say it? Hear me speak. There's an abbreviated account of that post-invitation turn of events.
On May 11, 1966, Peggy Ann Bradnick was only 17 years old when William Hollenbaugh, a former mental patient, took her at gunpoint. She was getting off the school bus with her younger siblings near Shade Gap, Pennsylvania. What followed was 8 days of terror for the teenager. Search parties with civilians and law enforcement officers combed the surrounding mountains in search of her. After abducting her, he forced her deeper into the woods of the Tuscarora Mountains. There he had hidden supplies in various caves that allowed them to subsist and to elude the more than 1,000 law officers searching for them. After Hollenbaugh shot and killed FBI agent Terry Anderson, law enforcement officers continued to arrive in the county to join in the hunt. A busload from the Juniata campus also joined in a one-day search, and some of you were among those. Are you here? There you are. On the final day, Hollenbaugh shot Francis Sharp, a Cambria County deputy sheriff, then forced the deputy, now wounded, to drive the pair down Route 522 to the Turnpike Exchange. Sharp was able to alert the state troopers who were stationed at the Rubeck Farm. In the ensuing gun battle, Hollenbaugh was shot and killed. Peggy Ann was taken to the medical center at Connellsburg, where she spent a week recovering from severe dehydration. She had lost 14 pounds during her week in captivity. Recently, the town of Huntington invited Peggy Ann Bradnick Jackson to speak at an open forum about her experience. The Daily News reported that event was attended by 300 people.
I write about another sensational news story which also involved your class. This is a summary of what I say. March 1965 witnessed the baptism of Juniatians into civil rights protest and violence. A combined group of students and faculty, inspired by Harriet Richardson and Galway Cannell, poet in residence, decided to join in demonstration for voter registration in Alabama. This was in response to a plea for help from the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, its nickname. Plans called for a 4-day, 50-mile Selma to Montgomery pilgrimage. 21 persons, forewarned of the dangers that lay ahead, made the trip. 3 Huntington pastors were in the group. A College Hill group numbering more than 100 marched from the college through downtown Huntington and bade farewell to those Alabama bound. Down south, Juniata people joined with hundreds of colleges throughout the nation at Montgomery, the state capital. Mounted troops and posse men assaulted demonstrators in Montgomery with cattle prods, clubs, and whips, tossing canisters of tear gas into their ranks. Every white person in Montgomery would have killed us without question on their part, railed sophomore Charles Lytle on his return. Several from the Juniata contingent suffered injuries. English professor Donald Hope received head wounds, was hospitalized, and then released. The New York Times carried a front page picture of philosophy professor Elmer Moss administering first aid to Hope. Galway Canal and the Reverend Gerald Will, one of the pastors, also got a beating. Life magazine printed a half-page photograph of Richardson, a future Juniata trustee, tenderly wiping at Cannell's bloodied face. It was a photograph, the racial intimacy of which angered many unsympathetic Juniata alumni and parents. I wanted to include a picture of that scene in this last history, but the photographer asked an unbelievable sum of money, so I eliminated it. In March of 2005, history professor James Tootin, a birthright Southerner, organized a reunion on campus of the Selma marchers. There were symposiums and meetings over several days. Among those returning were Harriet Richardson and Elmer Moss. 2 months later, Professor Moss died at age 70 at a peace organization retreat in Connecticut.
Poignant and important memories, I think. But enough of those high notes, low notes. Let's talk about some other things in our history. And to do that, we are going to present to you now Mr. Steve Engle again and the Muddy Run Players with their College Tales Under the Radar.
Photographer Isaac. Let's have a hand for him. As Simon and Garfunkel sang, what a time it was, I have a photograph, and it was quite a time, wasn't it? We were young skin, thick hair, limber joints, all our teeth, and filled with the late adolescent exuberance and a little terror as we ascended College Hill. I understand that Dr. Ellis used to say to each incoming class, said, you will never again know as much as you think you do today. And boy, he got that right, didn't he? So here we are, 50 years later, in Pennsylvania Appalachian Mountains in Huntington. As a good Mennonite friend of mine used to say, Huntington, it's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here. Now our little presentation tonight will be more Saturday Night Live than Masterpiece Theater. It's kind of a mismatched medley of tales, quips, and quotes from our Juniata lore that slipped under the official college radar, and rightly so for most of them. But I will say that to the best of my knowledge, over 90% of these tales are true. A little bit of poetic license here and there. But yes, a couple weeks ago, Joan Van Note called me and kind of wondered how things were going for this, and I was kind of outlining a little bit of what we were doing, and she says, well, are you going to have a panty raid? Well, I thought we were going to mention it, but I didn't think we were going to actually have one. However, there are many of you out there that feel so inclined. Go for it. Just wait till the program's over, please. Both my parents went to Juniata. They met here, went to school, were married, became lifelong friends with the likes of Calvert, Elizabeth Ellis, and H.B. Broombaugh, Jack Oler. In fact, then after school, my dad taught for 10 years in biology with Homer Will before he went off to be an ophthalmologist. And Dr. Pheasant, you two could probably have talked to my shop back in the day. But because of that, they knew almost all the old guard faculty and administration, and my sister and I declared we would never come here. Too much baggage. So we both started at different schools and graduated from Juniata College. My mother had a very interesting friend when she was here by the name of Edith Hartman, who then married Ernest Cottrell, who she always referred to as Ernest the Aviator. Ernest the Aviator was kind of an old-time barnstorming pilot who also fought in World War I in a biplane just like Snoopy did. But his claim to fame was that he invented the blue airport runway lights. So the next time you have a safe flight, thank Ernest for the lights. My dad, when he was a student, made the first touchdown for the first Juniata football team in 1920. And he went on to play basketball and also set a broad jump intercollegiate college record in 1923 that I think wasn't broken for about 30 years. The only reason I preface that is that I obviously did not inherit his athletic prowess. When I came to Juniata, about the only thing I did was bang a golf ball around Oler Hall Lawn in Mike Snyder's gym class, phys ed class. Any of you guys remember that? Then about halfway through the semester, we went inside for a health class. There were two things I remember from that class. Once when Mike was lecturing, he said, "The majority of fatal injuries end in death." Pretty safe statement, I think. I don't know whether Dr. Bruno would agree to that or not. And then at the end of the term, Mike assigned each of us a topic, and we were supposed to research that topic and then give an oral report to the class. My topic was health and care in pregnancy. You like that one, Betty? Good, I got one. But yeah, so here I am, 73 and childless, so I obviously did not take advantage of all that information. But Mike was a great guy, he really was, and according to Earl's book, he was one of the greatest athletes to ever grace the teams here at Juniata, and he went on to coach a number of them, and also was both phys ed and sports administrator. So, kudos to Mike. By the way, this book we are referring to, folks, is a great book. If you really want to know anything about Juniata, I mean, it's not just a dry history. He has a wonderful writing style, and I really think it's a great buy. And you probably get it through the bookstore. 1964 choir tour. On the bus, each morning, John Fair, class of 65, history major, would give us a historical fact for the day. And we were also invited to write a comment and pass it to John, and then he would read them later on. On this particular day, the historical fact was Cotton Mather was converted while going to the bathroom. And our own Mary Zook's older sister, Barb, had the winning comment, which was, "God moves in mysterious ways." When we were here at Juniata, we were really fortunate to have several esteemed history professors, two of which we have here this evening. And there was one other history professor, Dr. Ken Crosby, who was especially known for his very unique use of the language. The man really knew how to use words. And, well, Dr. Crosby, I presume? History, yes. I like the outfit too, very nice.
I've just been perambulating around a bit. Alumni conflagration, you know.
Yes, I can understand that. Well, I was told that you were always a good man with a quip or an interesting kind of saying when you were lecturing. Is that true?
Yes, I was always partial to a good quip. Anything to keep the students from the arms of Hypnos.
Hypnos? Who was Hypnos?
The Greek god of sleep.
Ah, helped keep them awake, huh? Well, now you know, Doctor, speaking of sleep, I was told one time that you were seen outside at 2 in the morning painting your windowsills by flashlight.
That night, Hypnos had eluded me, as had my attention to the sills. So attention was paid.
Okay, all right. Now, I also heard that when you were lecturing, you had a memorable quote about when you were lecturing about, what was that? Oh, Mexican Civil War history. Something to do with Pancho Villa being turned in by his lady love for a reward.
Yes, I did, and she did.
What was the quip? Do you remember?
I suppose she loved the peso more than the poncho.
Indeed.
Well, dude,
More perambulating?
you got it, dude.
Okay.
Yes, sir. She loved the peso more than the poncho.
Right, okay. Thank you, Carl. The only history course I took, and I don't know how this happened, but it was only one, and it was from Philbrook Smith. By the way, did anybody ever figure out what he really had in that coffee cup? Rumor has it that it was kind of a custom concoction, and I'm not sure it would pass the breathalyzer test. And then there was also his cigarette lighter, which he must have had on torch, because it would shoot about a half-foot flame, and you could burn down the world with it. Anyway, I took this course, and the only thing I remember from that course is that he was talking about, it was a king or a ruler in medieval France who had this jester-type fellow who was really a one-trick pony, and he could perform one trick and that was it, which isn't a bad gig, I guess, if you can get it. But anyway, this trick so dazzled this king or ruler that he would have this guy performing for anybody, anywhere, anytime, any place. And the trick was, and I'm quoting Dr. Smith, the man would jump up in the air, whistle, and break wind at the same time. I keep waiting to see this on Game of Thrones, but they haven't had it on yet. So, Doc, thanks for the memories. Late December afternoon, Bill Brubaker, Paul Morse, and Dave Gould put on bathrobes, wrapped towels around their head, went out behind the men's dorm, North Dorm, along Cold Springs Road, and they were thumbing. A truck actually came by and stopped, and the driver said, "Where are you going?" They said, "Bethlehem." Truck driver says, "Oh, sorry, I'm only going to Scranton, or I'd take you along." Elaine Sienna Tremmel of our class sent me some anecdotes. She was one of 3 people who did. Thank you very much. But anyway, and she writes that she lived on the first floor of South Hall for 3 years. And I quote her, "There was this security guy with a creepy name like Sparky, and the curtains on the front of the dorm had shrunk a bit and were short about an inch or so. This guy would peek under the curtains when on duty after dark. Towels rolled up on the sill were essential." Now, Elaine, I remember 2 night watchmen, and the one guy was actually named Sharky, and the other we called Speck the Green Hornet. So Sparky was kind of a combination of both. You remember them? Yeah. And also, Sharky was the older of the 2, and I heard when they would go into the women's dorm, they were supposed to, call out, "Man on the hall," or something like that, and they would do it especially quietly. So, I was just talking about you. You're Sharky, aren't you?
Oh, you got me there.
So where's Speck?
Oh, he's up at North Hall, probably telling the boys kind of joke you can't repeat in mixed company here.
I wouldn't doubt that. Well, Sharky, you know, rumor has it that you guys had wandering eyes when you were around the women's dorm.
Oh, no, we knew right where they were. Darn towels.
Uh-huh. So, you don't deny it.
I don't deny it, and I don't confirm it.
Sounds like you guys could be politicians.
Nah, we know. Well, we're not that lazy. We are. Maybe we are. You tell me. Yeah. Oh, see, it's time for me to make my appointment at South Hall. Well, see ya.
Keep those eyes straight ahead, Sharky. There was a dear and very witty girl in the class of '67 who always said she wanted to spend her honeymoon in Tokyo so she could say she was made in Japan. One night in Cloister, the guys must have been watching a horror movie about ants, or Attack of the Giant Ants, or them, or something. But anyway, I think included in the group once again were Brubaker and Morse, or Gould. But anyway, they decided that maybe it was time for the campus to have a giant ant attack. And this is what they made up. And I can't really do it, but you're supposed to put your coat over your head. You did this. That's kind of silly, but you know, in the middle of the night, if you're outside and you have 12 guys coming at you like that, it'd be a little bit creepy. So they went peeping out of the dorm, and I think they went going down to the Faust house on 17th Street to see Bob and Nancy Faust. And they got down there, I don't remember what happened then, but anyway, they looked over and there were Sharky and Speck walking up Moore Street. And you know how a flock of birds are flying and they just all seem to be able to turn at the same time without saying what's kind of what happened with the ants. They kind of just looked at each other and all of a sudden, they were off towards Sharky and Speck, who were last seen running behind Founders Hall screaming into their walkie-talkies. Bob Faust was our campus minister at the time, as you recall. In fact, he was the first campus minister that we ever had. And he had a great sense of humor. And the last time that my wife Joan and I saw Bob and Nancy was, I think, at '95 at the Cincinnati Brethren's annual conference. And we were going out to dinner with them. And we got to the restaurant and we sat down. And just when the waitress came over, before she could say anything, Bob looked up and he says, "Hello, my name is Bob, and I'll be your customer this evening." Another Cloister story. Any of the guys that lived in Cloister or probably knew people there was a custodian by the name of Don Leitner, who we called Don Lightning. And Don had this big, huge trash bag, and there were large trash cans on the halls of each of the 3 floors. And Don would start on the first floor, empty the bag in, throw it over his shoulder, go up to the second floor, empty the bag in, schlep that up to the 3rd floor, empty it in, then carry the whole thing back down and out. Well, lightning may not be striking twice, but it looks like it's striking at least once. How you doing, Don?
Well, what's it look like? Every day the same thing. Up and down for all that darn trash. If you guys didn't put so much trash out, and by the way, you could take care of the bathrooms a little better.
Yeah, well, you know, Don, we tried to tell you that if you'd start on the 3rd floor empty and fill it up as you came down, it might be a little better.
Listen, you preppies do your job, I'll do mine.
Okay. But there is one story, if you could tell the people if you remember. It had to do with Bill Barrier when he was working for the Dean of Men. He thought, or he got rumor that there were some of your boys keeping beer in the Coke machine.
Yeah, I know about that. I got wind that Barrier was coming over to check out the Coke machine. Well, I wanted to take care of my boys, so I went to check that Coke machine. Sure enough, 2 cans of beer in there. So I drank them.
Boy, now.
Well, you know, You do what you can. But I gotta go. After I get rid of all this trash in this bag, I gotta go figure out my hours again.
Oh, you should get overtime for tonight, Don. Thanks for stopping by. Bob Klug, now that he's back to being Bob Klug from Doc Crosby, he's another one that sent me some memories of his, and I'd like to read you a couple of these. He says, I remember transferring to Juniata in January, and I'm being called Charlie because I look like a Charlie, as people did not know my name. I even have a Juniata mug with the name Charlie on it. I remember asked in my oral exam by Barbash, what is the relationship between mathematics and art? First thing that came to my mind was paint by numbers, but I really don't think that's what he had in mind. Bob says, I remember cutting guys' hair for 50 cents a cut and being told it was the best haircut in town. I'm glad the math thing didn't work out for you, Bob, but it sounds like you could have had another occupation if you wanted. And he said, I remember carrying books from the old library to the new one in a very organized fashion. I believe Dr. Cherry was in charge of that, but I think Dr. Trexler also assisted in that, which I'm sure almost all of us did that transfer. Then Bob also says, I remember the panty raids. Joan, panty raids. Bob remembers the panty raids, but mostly watching from afar, as I did not want to get in trouble. But Tom and I figured out, you had an alias. You could say, it wasn't me, it was Charlie. And then one more memory, more recently he says, was receiving a letter from the college asking for donations to build a new science center. And thinking, we just built a new science center. And then realizing that was 40 years ago. Some of you may remember Clay Pheasant from the class of '65. And in the fall of '66, both Clay and I were students at Bethany Seminary outside of Chicago, as was Jim Lehman and several others. And I only lasted a year. Oh, Jack Blau back there, of course, was there. I only lasted a year. I flunked God. But anyway, Clay and I were driving back to Pennsylvania for Thanksgiving vacation, and we stopped and picked up somebody along the way, which was a new phenomenon for 1966, a hippie. And he gets in the car, and Clay's in the driver's seat. Clay turns around and goes, Clay Pheasant. The guy looked at him a little strangely and said, wouldn't die. Well, I kind of ticked Clay off a little bit, but that's my name. Oh man, I thought you were playing some kind of a game. One spring afternoon, a Sunday afternoon, Jim Lehman and I were taking a walk, and we went by the Cherry residence on Mifflin Street, and out from the second floor window popped a very, very, very young Chipper Cherry. And he goes, hi! We went, hi! His dad poked his head and said, he's just exhausted his entire vocabulary. And while we were speaking about cherries, you all remember Great Epochs of World Culture, which was quite a course for all of us, and was taught by Steve Barbash, Homer Moss, and Betty Ann Cherry. And you know, the Herculean design and multidiscipline sweep of this unique and really memorable course, unfortunately over the years, for too many of us, has kind of been reduced to 2 words. Flying buttresses. To illustrate this point, back around 2002, my wife Joan and Betty Ann and another friend of theirs, Jane Croyle, put together some European tours called the Great Epoch Tours, where they went to places that we learned about. And the first tour in 2002 was to France. And I understand that as soon as they got on the bus over there, every time they saw a cathedral, flying buttress at 4 o'clock, flying buttress at noon, flying buttress at 9 o'clock, all week. But finally on the last day, they're driving through Paris, and they hear flying buttress at 10 o'clock. All eyes went that way. And here on a little roof above a small cafe, there was a workman standing there washing a second floor window. And you know where I'm going, don't you? His shirt was too short and his pants were too low, and it revealed a new flying buttress. Well, Betty Ann, by this time, exasperated and fatigued, stood up on the moving bus, turned around to the people, and exclaimed,
Never gonna grow up?
Some of you, well, I guess I didn't mention this, New Century Singers, did I, tonight? I was going to say that the Crosbys were really very kind to us. Those of you that are non-class persons and don't know about the New Century Singers, they were a folk group back then that had a pretty successful couple of years on and off campus. But the Crosbys would invite us over in the late afternoon to rehearse, and then they'd feed us. We did a lot of traveling around in those days, and I prided myself in knowing what would play in Peoria, what would go with the audience. And I was pretty good at it. Till one night, we were singing for a Republican convention at the Jaffa Mosque up in Altoona. Charlie Halleck, a very conservative congressman from Indiana, was the guest of honor and speaker. And we sang the Graff Dodgers Rag. Those of you that may not remember that, those of you that have never heard it, Taylor, if you would be so kind, here's just a quick excerpt.
So we have 2 cows to perform for you tonight. Shivers Morris and Flips Your Bull to do the Graff Dodgers Rag.
We've licked pneumonia and TB and plagues that used to mock us. We've got the illness and the sun. The smallpox and us. We found an antibody for Staphylococcus streptococcus. But oh, the universal curse, Vietnam to Korea, the bug of bugs that bugs us still and begs for panacea. Oh, who will find a cure for pentagonary? I'm just a typical American boy from a typical American town. I believe in God and Senator Dodd and a typical old Castro bound. But when it came my time to serve, I knew better than red. But when I got my old draft board money, this is what I said. Sorrow, pneumonia, TB, emotions, bleed, and always carry a nurse. Got my talking about the hill, you know, and my asthma's getting worse. Consider like a real my sweetheart, dear, my poor internet. Besides, I ain't no fool, I'm going to school, and I'm working in a defense plant.
Well, that wasn't on the Republicans' top 10. Neither were we for that night. So I learned a lesson. But besides the Selma trip and others in '65, the Cultural Revolution was beginning to be felt on campus in numerous ways as well. And here is one of them.
Good evening. I'm Dean Claire Lowe, Dean of Women at the Juniata College. Having lived, taught, and counseled for 14 states, from Mississippi to Massachusetts, I am adequately prepared to provide for the cultural, academic, and social welfare of our women students. And though I advise the women's student government, the student senate, the campus judiciary, and Dean Heberling coordinates student activities, I consider it my personal guidance to a most personal, important service to our women students. Recently, our campus has been influenced by the radical cultural chaos infecting our country. One of our young women, Miss Shirley Hoover, has been infected with this feminist virus and had the poor judgment to write a letter to Juniata, which was published. In this letter, Miss Hoover stated that and I paraphrase here, my senior year I had become very irritated by the fact that the racial culture, I had become very irritated by the fact that I, as a woman, was required to be in the dorms by some specific hour. Signing in and out, not permitted any leeway for any reason. She complained about these and other restrictions, and specifically mentioned that her brother, who was 3 years younger than she, was a freshman at the college, had more freedom than she did as a 22-year-old woman. Well, I called her into my office and I gave her a real talking to. I reminded her that I was given a college mandate to enforce in loco parentis. In loco parentis means that this administration acts as her parents while she is here. And as a reminder, I refer all college women to the Latchkey, the Women's Handbook. And here are some excerpts.
In loco parentis. Number 1, to sign out for the evening, students sign the appropriate forms at the following times. When leaving the Huntington area, when leaving the campus if absence extends beyond 7 p.m., students are required to give full information as to date, time of departure, destination, and expected time of return, and sign in immediately upon return.
Rule number 2, for campus overnights, a student must sign out when spending the night in the infirmary. To spend the night in another girl's room in another dorm, she must obtain permission from all residence directors involved, and a proper entry must be made on the overnight sign-in sheet.
Number 3, parents must sign a form listing places their daughter may stay off campus overnight. The student must sign out, having an initial by the residence director, and sign in immediately upon returning. Students must sign out for all campus vacations. For weekend home visits, the student must obtain permission from her parents.
Rule number 4, dresses or skirts must be worn to all classes except lab, all sit-down meals, all administrative and faculty offices. Informal attire, slacks, and shorts of a conservative length may be worn in lounges and recreation rooms of women's residences, and also in the library and at final exams.
In loco parentis. Number 5, to get a medical excuse from class, a girl must report her illness to the infirmary before the scheduled class. In an emergency, a friend may report the illness for her. If a girl is detained at home because of illness, she must call her residence director or the dean. Upon her return, she is to bring to the dean a statement from her parents or her physician.
Reprimands are given, excuse me, this is of the 6th. Reprimands are given for excessive hall noise, improper dress, chronic room disorder, abuse of phone privileges, and having unregistered guests. Appropriate behavior in the lounges includes not eating or drinking. And couples must have at least 3 feet on the floor at all times.
I'll give you a minute to get over that one. Number 7, reprimands are also given for lateness in returning to the dorm. 1/2 reprimand for more than 10 minutes allotted for each semester. If the girl will be 15 to 30 minutes late, the reprimands will be cut in half if she calls the residence director before the closing hour. Lateness beyond 30 minutes must always be explained to the judicial board.
Rule number 8, reprimands will result in an automatic full weekend campus, which begins at 7:30 p.m. on Friday and stops at 8 a.m. on Monday. She may leave the residence to attend classes, meals, or church on Sunday. She may not speak with callers in any social areas of the residence. She must sign out and in with the residence director for every permitted leave. An evening campus has the same requirements.
And may I remind you that the use of alcoholic beverages is expressly forbidden on campus, in college buildings, in any house approved by the college for student residence, or at any college function. Thank you, girls. However, we're not through. Keep in mind, we're at a college dinner, a formal dinner, in the college dining hall. I have to remind you of the dinner dress code. I'm sure you remember, my assistants and I were on duty as you were filing in, and we watched you. I must say that your attire is really disappointing. My assistants are around here to help me now. Would all of the women who are not wearing a dress or skirt please stand up, if you can, and remain standing. Okay. Would all of the women who are wearing dresses, but no nylons, please stand and remain standing. We were checking your legs as you were coming in. Are any of you women wearing patent leather shoes? Please stand. Red dresses? But all of the men who are not wearing ties, please stand up. Would all men not wearing a dress jacket please stand up? Would anyone wearing sandals please stand up? I'm giving you warning. No reprimands tonight. But hopefully this public humiliation will be enough. You may be seated. Wasn't that special?
How times have changed. I have one more little bit, but before we do that, Tony, you know, we had the Kaylors involved tonight. We had Betty Ann involved tonight, but we didn't have anything for Dr. Trexler to do tonight. So we have a special present for him. Last night, Tommy was up on the cliffs howling at the moonless moon, and he tripped over this very unique rock. It seems to have some blue and gold seams in it or something. So we got Carol Graff to look at it, and she thought we might, well, oh, I better hurry up, yeah. Dr. Trexler, this rock is for you. Rock on, man. And finally, this doesn't have to do with our class, but just a year or so before I retired from doing my dummies, I was at the Myerstown Church of the Brethren, which is east of here, doing a Sunday morning service, and during the introduction, the pastor mentioned that I was a Juniata graduate. And so after the service, he corralled me into shaking hands at the door, and I was doing that, and a woman came up to me with kind of a strange look on her face, and so says, "Did you really graduate from Juniata College?" I said, "Yes, I really did." And this was in June. She said, "Well, my son just graduated from there. Is this what I have to look forward to?" Thank you, goodbye.
Thank you, Steve. And the Money Run Players. So we weren't really here at Juniata College in Huntington. We were in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, the way it sounded. Jeez Louise. But it was fun, wasn't it? Thank you. Okay, now I promised you, we've been doing a lot of talking, and it's now time for perhaps you to do some talking. So a little bit of open mic, if anybody has anything they would like to share with the group this evening. I'm going to cheat a little bit because I think Steve Gillingham has something. And fire away, Steve.
Hey, listen, I promise you I'm not going to talk about money, okay? Listen, oh, no, here he goes again. He's going to ask for more money. No, that's over. But I just want to make an announcement. Carol, I'd like you to stand up, please.
Oh, no, I get the mic after you.
Oh, okay. All right. This is a nice announcement. Some of you may know this, some of you may not. But Carol has been elected on the Board of Trustees. So let's give a big hand. Congratulations. Now I want you to remember one thing, that you're from the class of 66, and we expect favoritism to our class. Right?
So now I have actually two things to say. So the first thing is that I'm not the first person in our class to be on the Board of Trustees. Actually, we have had 3 other people. Carol Lake, who decided not to come tonight. Boy, did she miss a good party. Bob Peasant, great Board of Trustee member. And then my freshman roommate, who was Judy Myers-Kimmel, who served as the Church of the Brethren representative on the Board of Trustees. So we have a long history of being on the board. But we didn't get any special treatment from those guys. We'll change that now. All right, I have one other thing to say. So I started work with the reunion committee kind of late, and I thank you very much for bringing me in and letting me have a little fun. But this is my take. I thought when we were here, we were rather unremarkable. The class of 65, oh my God, they were full of themselves and continue to be full of themselves. Remember, they won every all-class night. And the class of 64, what I remember were all their chemistry majors, I fell madly in love with all of them because they were so smart. And then there was the class of 67, Toby Dills, you remember Toby? Again, outlandish class. I thought we were rather boring. But since then, we have become remarkable. So let me tell you what I learned as I was calling all of you. We are teachers and teachers and teachers and teachers. We are college professors and elementary school teachers and high school teachers. But we aren't just teachers. We were chairman of the department. We developed this curriculum. We brought in this new program. We are doctors. We are lawyers. We are nurses. We are dentists. We are business people. We are entrepreneurs. And we are even entertainers. And we are authors. And we are civic-minded. And we are volunteers. We are remarkable. So when it came to our booklet, you know those marvelous booklets that you're beginning to read, we filled them out. I don't know that we set an all-time record, but if we didn't set the record for participation, we came in second. Remarkable. Look around, how many of us are here? I don't know that this is the most number of people who have ever come to a reunion, but if it isn't the most, it's the second most. We are remarkable. And when you look at all the money we raised, there are other classes like that one at 65 that's full of itself. Well, they have rich Uncle Frank that swoops in and saves them every time. But by the way, we didn't need rich Uncle Frank. We did it all together as a remarkable class. So you know what? We may have been rather boring 50 years ago, but we're very impressive today. So let's give ourselves a hand.
Hello, is this one working? Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, well said, and thank you for being our representative on the Board of Trustees. Anybody else have a comment or something to add to the evening? Good. We should. No. Oh, maybe it's that one. Well, before we draw things to a complete close, Carol made mention of something I felt I needed to acknowledge, and that was that booklet. I was taken by it. It was wonderful, and if you haven't read it, you spend time with it. There are a lot of good things in there. And the work that was done to put that together, to research, for example, the in memoriam section, which I thought was phenomenal. They did a lot of Googling and a lot of information. Judy and Helen, you did a great job. And as a result, we have created an award for you. In honor of Dr. Binkley, we have the Binky. You each get a Binky. And finally, for the writer, director, producer, everyman for us tonight, Stephen, we have for you the Esty in honor of Dr. Esther Doyle. Okay, so there's an Esty. I just had an extra trophy that I picked up at this store, so I thought I'd do one more. I've always felt that one of our class members has been especially important to Juniata College over the years, and that person was honored this morning, as a matter of fact, at one of the events. But I always felt that every time I came back to campus and every time I talked to him, I knew that he had his finger on the pulse of things that were happening in Juniata, and especially with the development of the campus, of buildings, because he was the guy who was cooking the book. I mean, who was taking care of the books. I'm sorry. And making sure that all the presidents, and how many did you work with, Bill? 5 presidents, okay, you beat me, I did 4, okay. But at any rate, 5 presidents, kept them in track, got the campus going, I think, in wonderful direction. So, we have an award for our classmate, Bill, who devoted so much time and energy to Juniata College, the Fulton Award he's from Fulton County, you know, and so to dollar bill, we have the Fulton. Okay, well, there you have it, folks. That's our first and our final 50th. And I think, well, somebody might be around for later on, perhaps. I think it's been a hoot, and we thank you for being here tonight. I just want to leave you with some observations. As I was building things about 50s and golden and everything that we were talking about, I came across something that was really interesting. A few observations and advice. And it came into the category of things that took me 50 years to learn. Number 1, if you had to identify in one word the reason why the human race has not achieved its full potential, that word would be meetings. Yeah? Okay. Works, does it? People who want to share their religious views with you, or maybe political views with you, are almost never want you to share yours with them. That happens. And then, also, this is a good one. There is a fine line between hobby and mental illness. And I think a lot of us suffer from that. I think it's, yeah. And the last is really a bit of advice. Never, under any circumstances, take a sleeping pill and a laxative on the same night. That's it, folks. We're done. Thank you. Except, I forgot, there's one more thing we need to do, and that is, as we've done in a number of meetings, which I enjoy very much, I'd like to add one dimension to it, that it would be the singing of the alma mater. Since we were all laughing there a little bit at the end, let's just, instead of a dirge, let's sing it a little up-tempo. And any from the choir who want to sing in harmony, there is a part to do that as well. But we'll stand and sing the alma mater.